Welcome, everyone, to Enlightened Masculinity podcast. Very excited to be here. We're picking up a topic from yesterday. Yesterday's topic was false compliments, and we stumbled across a technique in that. Akash illuminated us, which is the co-host, which I'll introduce in a second. And, this involved being aware of the effect of your communication so that you can be more tactical in how you communicate. And the complication would come up if you're always thinking about what's the effect of this communication. You may paralyze your communication. You'll just sit and think and ponder how's the other person going to react, forgetting that there's a whole other person in this interaction, and it's kind of unpredictable sometimes how other people interact. So we're going to talk about that balance today on Enlightened Masculinity. And I'm your host, Yogi Chris, PhD. This is your first time joining. Welcome. Leave us a comment below in the iTunes ratings. Let us know what you think about the podcast. If you do that, by the way, if you leave a comment, screenshot it, send it to us. The link will be in the descriptions. And I got a special gift for you. It's only available to people that do that. So I'm your host. I founded Ninth Limb Yoga, and I host many podcasts like this. I authored many books. I also have a PhD in the human universities, and I travel the world teaching my brand of yoga called Ninth Limb. So welcome. This podcast is our opinions and our experiences, and we highly recommend go to our Facebook private group called Enlightened Masculinity to get some details and free training on these subjects. So like I said, this podcast is a co-host. He is a biotech research analyst from the Northeast for the biggest drug dealers in the world, aka Big Farm. And he's also a registered yoga teacher and starting his yoga following there in Montclair, New Jersey. He has a normal human name called Akash Inti, but recently I like to call him the Pharaoh, formerly known as Ra. This is because of deep essence that we uncovered this weekend in our training here in San Jose with our teacher. And so without further ado, I welcome Akash Inti Katakam. Welcome to the show.
Hey, brother. How are you? As you can see, sitting here in the Zen garden, zenning out. I liked how we just got down deep into it because it's something that has reminded me of this is how to be in general as a man. It's like, you know what you want to do, you just go for it. The lack of hesitation and the consistency from yesterday, and not only consistency, but I guess the flow of it. It flows very well and parlays very well from yesterday. So really excited to talk about today's topic and just jump right into it. So on the idea, I guess, of really becoming aware of what is your effect, while at the same time not allowing the thinking of what is your effect to dominate and hinder you from even communicating itself. I mean, what's your experience like this? Because I know you think about what you're saying, and I've observed that you're very aware of the effects that you're communicating when you speak. Yet at the same time, I know that you're one who just acts just like that to finish and to get your communication across. So how do you balance these two things in your experience?
It was definitely challenging. By the way, I love the bird sounds in the background. It adds a nice air. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it seem more natural. So, it's easier to calibrate a communication when you see the other person, when you can hear the other person. This is why, let's say, like recording a video, when you don't see another person, that's challenging to calibrate your communication. That's why I love doing videos when there's someone else in the background, someone actually present. They might not be in the video, but I can calibrate my communication to, is it like hitting them? Are they getting it? If they're getting it, then it's more likely that the listener of the future listener of the video or the recording will also get it. So, balancing or, creating a good effect is so much just little micro calibrations into what's the actual effect you're creating on the other person as you're creating it. Excuse me. And, one of the questions actually that's come up already from Theo here on Zoom, when using language patterns, what is this exactly how he says it? When it comes to speech patterns creating my desired effect on a woman, what is the proper tonality? That's really general. I don't know what speech patterns you're using. And just in general, since we're going general with it, every communication it's just a pattern of speech. Very rarely do you use communication that you're inventing a new way of talking right then. Somebody has used that and probably many times. You yourself have used it many times. however you're talking, that's typically, you've said that phrase many times, so that's a speech pattern. So really the question is, what tonality creates the desired effect on women or on a woman? And my answer is whatever tonality works, right? It's just whatever works. Everybody is different. And in general, for the general woman, depending on if you've generated attraction and if there's real interest there, then a dominant tonality with certainty and confidence. Those are some of it's just masculine characteristics, whatever characteristics that that you want the woman to recognize in you. Those are the qualities that you want your voice tone. So I don't know if I answered your question, Akash, about, how do I balance and create the desired effect without, but still staying like immediate in my communication. I just go right into it and I start slowly, just like I wouldn't do the deepest yoga stretch, my first stretch of the sequence. I would go slow, but I'm still going to do it. And as I calibrate to my body, I go deeper and deeper as I want. What do you think about that? Did I answer the question? I'm sorry if I forgot.
Yeah, I think you definitely touched on the important points. So I think, one, it's really, really important not to allow your thinking of this to be the only thing to dominate your decision making. So this is a really important teaching right here. There's two parts to us: our thinking minds, and then our gut, or our beingness, which is more in our belly area. These are two modes of operation, two ways that we think about things and communicate the world itself, actually. And so when you're communicating, you're not only communicating from your mind or the words that you're saying, but you're also communicating with tonality, or you're sub-communicating to the belly kind of region. And this is really, really important to understand, that there's one communication that's going on here at the level of the words that I'm saying, and you can hear it kind of, it's more up here. And there's another communication that goes a bit lower, and it's the tonality of what am I saying, and where is that really hitting you and resonating within your body. Think of your stomach like a sheet of aluminum foil or a sheet of metal that it's able to really pick up and I guess catch vibration very well. There's another communication that goes down to there, and what is that one saying as well? So you've got the words, and then you've got the sound, or the vibration of it. And so becoming aware that when you communication itself, the words that you're using are very important, and they are saying one thing, but it's really the tonality that's saying another thing. And then lastly, the thinking comes from the mind area, and then the gut feeling is more the action. So by not taking an action, that's also taking an action. So you need to balance these two. You will say at some point that these are the words that I'm thinking, and I'm trying to think through what should I say. But then you also need to take an action to really make sure that it's solidified and goes through as well. So that's the way I approached it, and such. And again, these are things I'm distilling down for myself from this weekend. So I liked that question. I think what I had hinted at here may start uncovering itself and unraveling what you're looking for already itself. So
definitely, yes, and very exciting. So I'm about to go to yoga soon, guys. So if you got any questions or comments, definitely type them. I like what you're saying about action, inaction. Even inaction is action also. And every action has a cause and effect and a consequence. And the consequence of inaction, anyway, what I'm saying is that what I see a lot of times, especially being able to relate with this situation as I'm about to describe this, is I was so in my head and not used to communicating with other people live, that give me a response, I can calibrate what I'm saying to them. That my communication was lacking delivery, it was lacking body language, it was lacking hand gestures, it was lacking emotional expression through the face, and so much of the impact of your communication is in these other areas, including your eyes and so on. And, even if you're not present, like physically, let's say, like Akash is on video. I see Akash, he sees me. Like we can communicate with our hands and see that with each other, and that'll have some effect. There's even going to be a further effect if we're actually in proximity to each other and you can feel someone's energy and heat. But subtract that out, and that's one sliver of communication that is actually absent, that isn't totally possible to reproduce via video. It would be like, if there's 7 colors in the rainbow and I'm colorblind to orange or whatever color, yellow or something. I can still see the other colors. I'm not totally blind. But then if we took out video, then it would also remove a couple other colors. I wouldn't see facial expressions. And you can kind of hint at that, because if I was on the phone with somebody, I can contort my face and make the facial expression as if I was emoting, and that will come through in my sound. And, like smiling is a really easy way to change your voice tone. If you just smile when you communicate, when you talk, like you can almost hear the other person smiling. So
it's subtle. It's very, very subtle for those who are like either make phone calls or some such thing. You can't, like Chris said, you can't see the person, but you can feel that they're smiling when they're speaking or something. Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's all my point is that in your communication, I like how you're talking about, the very symbolic communication with the head, the brain, and the very kind of, body, visceral communication with your tone. And, I could go deeper into my understanding of those things, but I also want to say that there is, the body is a communication on itself, and with your fingers, your hands, your face, so much of it, and finding the corollaries between what you're trying to say and how the body would express that also essential to becoming a better and better communicator. And I'm on this path to becoming the absolute best communicator everybody present right now has ever seen in your life, and including myself. Continually impressing myself and pushing the limits of what I think is possible. And this is my path. This is the path of, in my take of it, an enlightened masculine person. So with that, I don't see any questions. So Saul is typing some things. Would you read them, Akash? Because I want to hear your voice.
Yeah, sure, brother. Give me 1 second.
I want to change that adjective. It's not your lovely voice. I want to hear your masculine voice. That's called calibration, everybody. You see, there was an effect on Akash, and then when I changed the word, so that was a better communication. See that?
Certainty, confidence, and got that, brother. Definitely feel that one. Yes, I had an amazing experience last night with a cute woman, and it was on these topics. Shout out to you, Chris and Akash, for making me a better man.
Awesome. Definitely leave us a review on iTunes, Saul. And cool. Lord Swami Rose, does facial expression affect body language? Like your own facial expression affect your own body language? I mean, if you want,
expression is it's a type of body language.
Yeah, right? I was going to say, like, you could separate the two and make there's like facial expressions and there's body language, or you could call like facial expressions like a subtype. I don't know, because it's technically, I mean, that's your body, but it's like a very specific, and you can emote a lot more with your face than with your, I don't know, your chest. Does it affect? I don't know. I don't know if you're saying does it affect the other person's body language or your own. I don't think, like, maybe, that's like saying does your voice tone affect your words? No, they're two different things. You can say words in any number of voice tones. Go ahead.
And I would also add to that. So yeah, there's two. Remember, there's at least 2 people in a communication. So you'll have, I'd say there's 3 people always in a communication, actually. So the person who's speaking, the person who's receiving, and then the person who's observing. You can only have 2 people. But again, if you have 2 people in a communication, you can assume that there's like a third, like eye, if you will, or someone who's outside looking in. You can imagine that there is someone there. So even if there's only 2 people, you can still imagine that there's a third person. So there's always 3 people in a communication. Now, if you're saying this facial expression affect body language, so you have the facial expression of the speaker, you've got the facial expression of, and then you'll have the of the third person as well, the observer. So you could also have the body language of the speaker, and then the receiver and observer. So if the question is, does the body language or does the facial expression of the speaker affect the speaker's body language? Probably not, but there is always some type of, whatever the words that you're saying outwards, there's effects that's going on inside as well. We may not be as aware of it, but as I'm saying things, there's probably things that I'm doing with my body that at this point I'm not aware of, yet I'm becoming more aware of. And it's communication that I'm having actually internally with myself. And that's uncovering more things about me. To you guys as the observer or the receivers, you may see things about me that at this point I may not see. Yet at the same time, it's a result of the communication that's going outwards as well. So as we become more aware of the words that we're saying, we may become more aware of the effects that I guess we're having on our own body language. Yet I'd say at this point, really, the facial expressions may affect the body language of others. This is my understanding at this point.
Yeah, and as I see it, it's kind of like, rubbing your belly and patting your head. Sometimes it's hard to disentangle the two. Like they want to be in coordination. So that's kind of like your facial expressions and your body language, or your words and your voice tone. Like it's hard to separate the two sometimes in your mind, but once you have them separate, then they become two different variables that you can play with. And so then they don't have to be the same. And this is the process of maturing in your communication. You must become very good at this. If you do sales, if you are teaching somebody, if you just want to have a different effect on somebody, if you want to break somebody's pattern of communication, you want to have a different kind of communication received, then you must, become more dynamic. So, okay, so I'm going to wrap it up now because of yoga class right now. Got to be disciplined in your guys' practices. This is essential to your enlightened masculine path. And if we have any women listening, you can also become enlightened. Enlightened feminine is just, that is clarified through the enlightened masculine also. So I invite everyone, leave a comment on our iTunes, send me a screenshot, and I got a special gift for you. Also join the private Facebook group Enlightened Masculinity for some free teachings. Swami wrote, it's more like body, mind, communication with the self. No, that's not how it works. The self is, no. The self is the absence of the body, mind. And there's no communicating with it. But you can commune with it. That's a deeper teaching. If you want that, then go to the Masculinity Facebook group. And so I'll hand it over to Akash. If you got any closing things you'd like to say, then I'm all ears, brother.
Yeah, my closing things are, it's one of the big teachings from this weekend, is as a man, we go outwards. A woman goes inwards. But this is in many ways. We don't realize how often as men, or in today's society, most men are actually going inwards. They're not going outwards with their beingness, with their energy, with their words, etc. So I guess become more aware and think through in your day-to-day, how much are you going outwards and how much is your energy affecting the world around you versus how much are you being affected by the world around you. The man is cause.
Wow. Said like a true pharaoh. So, thank you everyone for tuning into Enlightened Masculinity, and we'll catch you next Saturday and Sunday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Namaste.